Yeah, let's
this
get this
through.
ball on the roll. I'm ready to go. See, I can't even talk. Ball on the roll.
It's all right,
I don't
it's
know
like
what
Yoda.
whatever that saying
He's
is.
wise.
All right, this is the legislative committee meeting for September 22nd, 2022. Present are Council President Wolf, Councilperson McNamara, Councilperson Shrestha, Councilperson Schross. Koss. What did I say?
Schross.
Schross.
was-
I went from
It was
Shrestha
a
to
mix.
Schross. There we go, that makes sense.
I don't feel so
Just
bad. I always
Koss.
do
You're
it.
just trying to be efficient. I
Yeah,
get it.
and Mayor Hughes and myself, Councilperson Bruger.
Not Hughes
Oh yeah,
anymore.
Southern.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
Southern.
forget that too. Don't worry. I don't even correct anybody.
We have a new mayor.
I'll just start calling you by your first name.
Just call me.
Okay, looking at it, we have lots to pass tonight.
Yes.
4 things, all of them looking to pass tonight. Most of them, it's their third reading, so there's no big surprise there. 2022, that's the, what is it, $60,000 appropriation for next year's police vehicle. Anything to say on that?
That is the full. That's with the equipment,
Yeah, that's,
Fully
that's
with all
a,
the
that's
stuff.
a,
cameras and all that.
yeah,
Get you your cop suspension, your cop engine.
You're everything.
cop shocks,
tires,
yeah.
cop shocks.
They
An
need
ordinance
those.
to make supplemental appropriations for the current expense of the village of Mineral Park for year 2022. This is the other appropriation one that's gonna be on here. This is the one that has the TIF and all the extra little, little extra money, not little, I think it's like,
It's 230.
well, it's 230, but it does say little, I think there's something for the police for gas that was like 10,000.
Yes.
15,000 because we're collecting more taxes than we think we were going to. And so we need to give Rita put aside more for Rita's cut of our tax money for their administration, because they do that apparently on a percentage base.
5,000 for the police,
Yeah.
1,000 for the pool, 5,000 for personnel services for planning and zoning.
Yeah,
5,000, 6,000 for the mayor's office.
the two biggest are the 15,000 for the tax administration, and of course the 230,000 for that whole TIF kerfuffle. We've been trying to get this passed. Tonight is our third reading, so we can just pass it.
And it's super important because this is how we get our storage container so we can finish moving.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very nice. That'd be nice.
We won't need to do an emergency since it is an appropriation, it just goes into effect.
Correct.
Okay, well, I wasn't asking, I was saying, but all right. Ordinance 28, 2022,
All right, sassy.
this is the allowing then the mayor and chief of police to order that car and get the ball rolling. We don't expect to see it anytime this calendar year. If you guys recall, we of course did this last year, paid for this year's car last year so we could get it this year. So really at this point, we're almost still just doing a car payment a year. It's just for a car that's 8 to 12 months out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did we ever discuss, I thought I remembered last year we discussed working the math, if it was the most financially prudent to continue doing the yearly versus spreading out every, 2 years or something like that. Did I imagine that, or did I just forget the
That was
results?
brought up, but I don't know that we ever had,
I know we've done that more than once in the past.
Okay, I must just not remember the results.
I don't know if we went through it again this time, but I know that discussion is on the reg. And what usually winds up happening is if you're not replacing them in the kind of cadence we are, then you're not getting, you wind up having a crappy cruiser at the end of its cycle, cause it's been beaten up more. right?
Understandable.
And then there's no residual value at the end. We usually are able to sell them for a little something.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, crumpling it up like a pop can and throwing it in the trash.
I think it's been around $8,000 to $10,000 is what we typically sell them for, and I think the biggest thing that a lot of people forget or don't, I absolutely just didn't know. Those police cruisers run for the entire 8-hour shifts, so the amount of wear and tear that goes on them is not just the wear and tear of going 0 to 60 in 30 seconds in an emergency. But
or you're
the
driving onto 161.
yeah.
Yeah, is that too?
So, there is a
0 to
lot
60
of,
in 30 seconds.
there's a lot of that kind of stuff that comes with it. And then just to point out, whether or not you guys even know this now or not, but we still don't even have last year's crew, the one that we got this year, it is still not up and running in the fleet completely.
It's not in service.
And the reason is we still can't get all of the, I'm gonna call it tools that we need to operate as far as cameras and radios and all of that. And I don't know which ones, I believe it's the radio and the camera, but we are still waiting for those. So even if we get this cruiser, it doesn't mean it's gonna go right back into service again. So we're hoping in the next 30 days it will be. One of the two things that we were waiting for just came in, but we're still waiting for the last thing.
Okay. And the other one that I don't have the full text of in the packet is this last one.
Yes.
I just have it on the agenda.
I have extra copies downstairs for when we get down there, so if you guys don't mind taking a look at it before.
Okay.
And the easy part to that, and I do believe he emailed it.
Let me go over it
read
real
yeah.
quick, cause I think the title's gonna be enough for us to understand
Perfect.
it here. It's 2022-30, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the city auditor and declaring an emergency, as this was just received and is due by October 1st, looking to move readings. This is the work that we sent to the county saying, yes, we still need to collect these taxes because we plan to spend this money.
I have the full text in mine.
I was,
It looks like it's a format that was provided to us
Correct,
by,
it's weird.
by the county, but it's
Yes.
here.
oh, okay.
And it will be
That's
com-
what I do have those.
Yeah,
I
it
just
just looks
did
weird.
not recognize them as,
We just have to fill that out after the vote tonight, because it actually asks for that on there, and then that will be submitted tomorrow,
cause
assuming
it
that it
doesn't
passes.
have our
Correct.
normal
Right.
be there, therefore.
Yeah.
So that's all that is, that's the only one we're looking to waive readings. Again, for those curious of reasons, we got the little sheets today from the county and the deadline is October 11th, which is in, or October 1st, which is in 8-9 days, something like that.
It's nice of them.
And it's
Yeah.
not a controversial thing, right?
No.
There's no question, it's not a matter of policy or spending money, it's just the county says, this is how much to be derived, this is, it's just statements of facts that we
Yeah.
are agreeing to.
And
Yes.
that you do need this and we'll spend it and aren't just
Right.
creating giant stashes of cash. So that is tonight's agenda items going through there with that. Not agendas, but tonight's meeting, so we don't have to debate in council, which is part of the reason we have this committee. The only other legislation that's still out there now, we do have, it looks like 5 of us here, would be the leash, things. Last I heard, most people were okay with direct control and then using, Franklin County's direct control language instead of reasonable control.
I think it's Columbus, but
Is it Columbus?
Yeah.
So,
I think we just
Yeah,
need to
but
get Jesse to draft.
Do we have
Yeah.
a link for that? Yeah, that was one of my questions. Being a little bit newer at this, what is that next step? I mean, is it, we're just going, to the T with Columbus, and then what is the enforcement of that? Are we going to, what does that look like, those next steps?
if needed or if warranted, an officer, I imagine, could stop someone with a dog off leash and ask for them to demonstrate direct control for them, to be able to do it, sort of on demand. And if not, it's, hey, you need to put that dog on a leash and keep it on a leash, or you'll get fined. I wouldn't imagine that, if the dog runs off in the middle, they'd be like, oh, that's it, it's a ticket.
Right, I
So-
just hope that there's gonna be some sort of enforcement, otherwise what have we done all this for, right?
From a legislative
Enforcement is the
process-
other process.
Yeah, from a legislative process, we would expect Jesse, right, we would ask Jesse, hey, this is the direction we wanna go, please draft that legislation. We would discuss it one more again, at least here in this committee, right, to make sure that it says what we want it to say, and then it would go to council for readings, right? As far as enforcement goes, right, that would then be a policy concern for the administration at the advisement of typically the safety committee. So if safety committee wants to get together and make up, some sort of directive, hey, administration, we feel like this is what that policy would need to look like. You can make that advisement to the administration. And or that advisement could be drafted into a resolution, right? Be it that we have adopted this ordinance, council is resolving that enforcement process should look like
But
this.
should we really have to have 4 more meetings for enforcement of the things we're doing? Like, does that
Well,
make sense?
it
I'm just-
depends on-
Because at the end of the day, if we've just sat here for 4 meetings and we've talked back and back and then it's not enforced, then
I mean,
once
that's-
again, residents' concerns have not been heard. We've wasted 4 meetings, in my personal opinion. I'm just saying that.
I mean,
For nothing. Like, let's,
that is fortunately and unfortunately the grinding gears of government, right?
The biggest thing I hate
So-
about it,
so-
you're
but
hitting
we
it on the
can
head.
sit here and say, well, that's the way the world works, so we're
So
just
no,
gonna,
look, I mean,
continue
so-
to operate that
I mean, we
way.
can-
That's
we
no
can-
longer,
We can draft the legislation, right? That's what council can draft and pass legislation, right? Council cannot enforce legislation. We have no enforcement mechanism. The enforcement is done by the police. The
Correct.
police are at the purview of the village administration, right? Council can advise the administration, council can make recommendations, council can tie administration's hands through ordinance and resolution, through legislation, but we can't do anything beyond that.
that's just something I
So
think
if-
that safety needs to be thinking about is, again, I think this needs to be enforced. You know, I think everybody that thought about this, I mean, is being more than compromising. You know, I think that there's on a certain aspect that this stuff does need to be enforced. Again, I know that we can't push that, but that needs to be monitored, I think, because it is a serious issue and I think it needs to be taken seriously, whether people that agree with it or not.
I think we can only take it one step at a time, which is
Right.
like we have to have legislation, then we can like act to enforce it. We can't like.
But if we're already sitting here and we've talked about it for 4 meetings and we're saying, well, you know, it might be enforced, it might not. I mean, that's
But it's not up to us.
taking a
You can't
step.
control something you can't control.
I can still state that and not say that I'm trying to control that. I'm stating a fact that's saying that, you know,
Well-
we have to monitor that. And if there's any problem with that, I don't see a problem with that. You might, but I don't.
Well, I'm saying it's like, that's like not in our control, like Brian said. Do you know what I mean? Like first we can. like-
Anastasia, I gather that, yes. I'm just saying that if it's something that's not enforced, it's something that we need to think about and maybe take to safety. Just like that.
There you go. I think
mean,
that's,
yeah,
Well,
that
I
is
just
exactly
have,
what's been
and the
said.
reason I agree with that is, here's where I think, without having Chief here, I don't wanna I don't wanna say anything controversial, but here's how I'm gonna say this. There are things that police can and cannot enforce when they don't see it with their eyes, and if it happens on the path and someone calls and the police don't see it, there's certain things that can't, and I
And
don't,
I'm not
and I
saying
don't
it from the assumption
know-
that I think he's not
Right.
going to enforce
And
anything,
I
or that he
think,
doesn't.
and I think and here's how I'm gonna say it, if it's something that's important to council and it's something that's important, I mean, obviously, Chief is going to listen to what council says, and I've never not had him do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the expectations need to be set for the law, and I don't know what that, like, and I'm saying this on here, I don't know what they physically have to see in order to enforce it.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
don't know that, and I think that would be a safety meeting, that these are the expectations, and I mean, I'm not in disagreement.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it would be a great place to do
That way we have that
it.
fine print and we
Yes.
know exactly
Yeah,
how it's,
right.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it sets
How it's gonna
expectations
work.
for everybody. I mean, it's
Yeah,
something
I
that,
agree.
you know, Chief can say, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do, law enforcement can only do X, Y, and Z. And then, you know, work it out that way. So I think
that's it.
you're right. I think it needs to go, the final step would, whenever you decide to do it, would need to go to safety to see how
Yeah, we
that
can
looks.
schedule a meeting for
Yeah.
that. That's-
But I would say this, I think everybody would be on board in enforcing it the way that council wants it enforced, just like any other legislation that we have, high grass. We do that based on the fact that we have legislation, and we do take that seriously, and people have been fined and paid that nice little fee for it. So we do it.
The other piece of legislation that we tabled, that is still on the table, is the vacating of the right-of-way.
Oh, that's right.
That we determined that the lines weren't drawn appropriately, And I think the last we heard, we were waiting for.
Correct.
For that, but we just shouldn't lose sight of it.
Correct. And I think that's something that Jesse will be there. We can shoot him an email and just kind of put it back on his back burner and remind him.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting him at the October meeting. So, and maybe we can get him, make sure he's gonna be at the work session as well. We can double check that, and that would be something.
Meeting is if I need to be there for.
Well, he's usually at the first meeting of the month.
Yeah, the
Okay.
first regular.
Yeah, the first regular council meeting, so I
Cause
would,
that last one, I think I won't be here for, cause I think that's conference, I know there's a Thursday night that I have conferences,
Okay.
and it's towards the end of the week,
We,
end of the month, sorry.
it would be good if we could get that back on his radar before
Let's
the
just
work
email him
session.
right now
Yeah,
while
email
you guys
him
are
now.
doing it.
Just remind him that
no,
it's.
if I don't do it right now,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna remember.
That it's not, that it's still on the table and we should aim to have some sort of resolution by year end, I think. Because if nothing else,
They deserve a timely
Yeah,
answer, if the
they-
answer is
yeah.
no.
It's been on
they
the table.
deserve-
Just give it.
it's been on the table for months. I think that we should either, remove it from the table and just kill it on its own, we're not taking this up any further, which we can also do.
Well, and this is not a fair statement, and I hate even saying this on a recorder, like everybody knows, but I know Jesse's going through quite a bit of work on trying to determine this, and this, and how do I say this nicely? I don't know that some people have any interest whether those lines are fixed or not, and I think maybe that would be kind of like I did last week when I brought up the topic. Do you guys even have any interest moving forward? We have Jesse chasing his tail, doing
Yeah.
all of these extra steps. You
Yeah.
know where I'm going with that,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know that that's fair to even
We
say.
have the option
I
of
agree with
just, taking it off the table and just taking it out of consideration entirely.
Yeah.
We don't actually have to vote on the thing, but we can say, we are not moving forward with this legislation. We should confirm that that is an appropriate action with Jesse, just to be certain.
Right.
Just cause it is a petition, right?
Yes, a resident did ask.
Yeah.
But, we can say no by rejecting legislation, or we can say no by not moving, not making the motion to move for passage, right? Those are our choices. Right, I think we've even had 3 readings, and we could take it off the table. Does anybody have any interest in moving for passage? No? Then,
I would say at that point, it'd be better to just vote it down. Cause taking off the table is, well, you asked us this and we're just not gonna consider it, which is a no.
so, and that's.
Now, that means that's now a no and that's on the books and can't be
Right,
revisited
but
later.
that's why we have to, if we're going to do that, we have to wait for the lines to be redrawn. Because what if,
I don't even
by
know if
some bizarro thing, everybody wakes up that morning and says, God damn, I just wanna give those people land. And we vote yes, then it's not prepared in a manner that we can vote
Yeah.
yes. So there, it is, I would say, in my opinion, I have an ethical concern bringing something up for a vote that is
Well,
not in a
yeah,
condition that
we
say
can't
yes.
bring it up to a vote unless it's actually what we're voting on,
Yeah.
certainly. I'm saying we need to get it into that
Yeah, that would be.
before we decide just not to vote on it, and if we decide just not to vote on it, I would say we need to vote on it to vote no, to say, look, you brought a
Yeah.
request.
That would be
We didn't just walk away and pretend we didn't hear you. We said, we heard your request.
Yeah.
We don't find that
Perfect.
we're willing to
I
do it,
just-
we're gonna say no.
I know
session.
I get
We like our cat,
contacted
we
by
like
one
our
of those
land.
neighbors every now and again saying, hey, when's that ever coming up?
Right.
again? So-
Yeah.
Don't disagree. Yeah, I think that is in your hands right now, hoping to get the information by next work session. Perfect. Sent.
Alright, anyone have anything else they wanna bring up? Anyone has any ideas?
So just-
I would like to add Rex Manning Day as a village holiday.
Who is that?
It's from the movie Empire Record. I was having a discussion about it earlier today.
I don't know who that
It was
is.
just a joke, sorry. Really?
Never seen the movie. I live under a rock. I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
I have a feeling Anastasia is just young enough that Empire Record is too old.
Liv Tyler was.
I'm glad that you
amazing.
mentioned that, cause I've been 29 for a while now, but I
Yeah.
am still 29, so.
Alright.
Alright, anyone else? Alright,
Second.
let's adjourn.
Let's-
All right.
See you all in 10 minutes.